from last time, recall that the greatest common factor can be a multi-term polynomial. And that's actually a really powerful idea because it's going to allow us to do factoring by grouping. And factoring by grouping is really the logic behind most factoring that you're going to do with polynomials. And what does it mean to factor out a multi-term polynomial? So let's say, for example, you had the expression 4x times 3x plus 1 minus 5 times 3x plus 1. Well, both of these guys have a 3x plus 1 in common. So what can I do? I can literally factor out a 3x plus 1. And what would be left in the other parentheses? Well, it would be each of those terms divided by a 3x plus 1. And anything divided by itself is just 1, including 3x plus 1. So you would be left with 3x plus 1, the term they had the same, and then 4x minus 5, the term that was different. So in particular, that other parenthesis is really going to end up with those leading terms that were a little bit different as the other parenthesis. Now typically things aren't given to you directly in this factoring by grouping format, and you have to create the format. And how do you create the format? Well, you're going to make two different pairs of groups and identify the greatest common factor of each group, and once you've done that, you will find that what's remaining looks a lot like this first example. So let's see that a little more explicitly. So for example, in this next one, if I were to make two groups here, in the first group, 10x squared minus 12x, their greatest common factor is 2x. So I can factor out a 2x just from those first two terms. 10x squared divided by 2x leaves us with 5x. Negative 12x divided by 2x leaves us with negative 6. And in the second group, their greatest common factor is 6, so I can divide out a 6 from both. 30x divided by 6 leaves us with 5x. Negative 36 divided by 6 leaves us with negative 6. And now they have 5x minus 6 in common, so I can divide out 5x minus 6 as the greatest common factor. Once I pull 5x minus 6 out front, I've got to divide each of the individual terms by 5x minus 6 as well, so that we're left with 5x minus 6 times that 2x plus 6, the only terms that did not cancel from doing that division, since anything divided by itself is just 1. So let's go into some more examples of this. So I'm going to go ahead and encourage you to pause and try this first one yourself, since it is very similar to the first example, where it's already been somewhat set up for that factoring by grouping for you. So here, it looks like our common factor here is going to be that 3x minus 5. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out front a 3x minus 5. And then what's going to be left in parentheses? Well, that's going to be each individual term divided by that 3x minus 5. Anything divided by itself, including 3x minus 5, is just 1. So you would be left with 3x minus 5 times, in this case, 5x minus 3, because that 5x minus 3 would be those terms out front here that would be left in your other set of parentheses. So that's kind of what most of these were getting at, right? So the idea is that you want it to look like this, where they're going to have a parenthesis in common. So then one parenthesis is what they have in common. One parenthesis will be what they have the same. And the other one, effectively, once you've factored out that parenthesis of the same, will be everything that they have that is different. And I don't know how to spell today. There we go. Different. So let's actually set up some problems for that. So the first thing you always want to ask yourself is there a greatest common factor that goes into all four terms? There's not, so we'll go ahead and move on to just factoring out the greatest common factor of each group. So for this first group, their greatest common factor looks like it is a 3x. And then what would be left in parentheses? That would be 21x squared divided by 3x. And then for the second term, that would be the 15x divided by 3x. 21x squared divided by 3x is going to leave us with a 7x. 15x divided by 3x is going to leave us with a plus 5. And then I'm going to still drop down that 3x. For the second group, since there's a leading negative, I'm going to want to factor out a negative. And then between negative 14x and negative 10, their greatest common factor is going to be negative 2. So then I want to take both of these terms and divide them by a -2. And don't forget about the negative part of that -2. Negative 14x divided by -2 is going to be a 7x. Negative 10 divided by -2 is going to be a positive 5. Had I simply factored out a positive 2, I would have had a negative 7x minus 5 in parentheses, which would have almost matched my other group of parentheses, which would have told me to factor out a negative instead. So if the parentheses match except for the sign, try factoring out a negative instead of a positive. But these match exactly, which is great. So these now have a greatest common factor of this 7x minus 5. So that's going to be one of my parentheses. And then when I do 3x times 7x minus 5 divided by 7x minus 5, that's going to leave us with a 3x. When I do -2 times 7x minus 5 divided by 7x minus 5, that's going to give me a -2. So those other two terms came from what was different. And then the first term came from what is the same. For this next one, I could jump into the factoring by grouping right away, but again, I do want to ask myself, is there a greatest common factor between all four terms? And this time there is. In particular, they all have 3 goes into all of their coefficients, and x to the 4th goes into all 4 of those terms as well. So I then want to go ahead and factor that out first, and then what's left in this remaining parentheses of 4 terms, I'm going to kind of treat as its own separate problem, but track that 3x minus 4 chilling on the outside the whole time. So let's go ahead and do this division. So 3x to the 7th divided by 3x to the 4th is going to leave us x cubed. 6x to the 6th divided by 3x to the 4th is going to give us plus 2x squared. 15x to the 5th divided by 3x to the 4th will leave us with plus 5x. 30x to the 4th divided by 3x to the 4th is going to leave us with plus 10. And now I'm going to zero in on this remaining parenthesis. And I'm still going to create my 2 groups, and I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of each group. So between x cubed and 2x squared, their greatest common factor is x squared. And then I want to still separately divide both of those by their greatest common factor in order to figure out what will be left in those parentheses. And similarly, between 5x plus 10, their greatest common factor is 5. And then I will want to take both of those terms and divide them by 5. And this whole time, there is still the greater parenthesis and the 3x to the 4th chilling on the outside. Now let's go ahead and continue to simplify here. So we still have a 3x to the 4th on the outside, x squared, and then x cubed divided by x squared is going to leave us with x. 2x squared divided by x squared is going to leave us with plus 2. And then we still have the plus 5. 5x divided by 5 is going to leave us with x. 10 divided by 5 is going to leave us with plus 2. And now within this parenthesis, we're going to have that they have x plus 2 in common. And then they have an x squared plus 5 still hanging out on the outside to make a final answer of that 3x to the 4th is still going to drop down. One parenthesis of what's the same, which is that x plus 2. And the other parenthesis of what's different, which is the x squared plus 5. And again, what we technically did was we took x squared times x plus 2 divided by x plus 2. That left us with x squared, and then we did 5 times x plus 2 divided by x plus 2, and that left us with 5. And that would be our nice, beautiful final answer. For this next problem, we want to ask ourselves the same initial question, which is, do they have a greatest common factor between all 4 terms? This time they do not. So instead I'm going to go ahead and jump to my 2 groups. In the first group, their greatest common factor is an a, so then I'm going to take both of those terms and divide it by a, because I identified that greatest common factor. In the second group, their greatest common factor is 7. So I'm going to go ahead and take both of those terms and divide it by 7. I would encourage you from here to go ahead and pause your video and try to see if you can complete this problem and complete the next problem. And then we'll come back and compare answers. So for this problem, if we're going to keep on going, we want to simplify those parentheses. So a divided by a is going to leave you with a b there. 4a divided by a is going to leave you with a 4 there. Drop down the a. For the next set of parentheses, 7 divided by 7 is going to leave you with a b there. 28 divided by 7 is going to leave you with a 4. And lo and behold, our parentheses do indeed match. So we'll have one parenthesis that is b plus 4. And then the other one, when I do a times b plus 4 divided by b plus 4, that will leave me with a. When I do 7 times b plus 4 divided by b plus 4, that will leave me with 7. And that will be our nice, beautiful final answer is b plus 4 times a plus 7. For the very last one, I want to go through a similar process, so I still want to first ask myself, is there a greatest common factor between all 4 terms? There is not, so I'm going to divvy up to my 2 groups. Between 21a and 7b, their greatest common factor is 7, and then I want to take each of those terms and divide it by 7. For the second group, their greatest common factor is going to be a c, and then just like AC, like 2 different words, just the letter C is the only thing they have in common. And then divide both of those terms by C. 21a divided by 7 is going to leave us with a 3a. 7b divided by 7 is going to leave us with a single b. 3ac divided by c will leave us with 3a. bc divided by c will leave us with b. Then we want to keep on going, so they have in common this parenthesis of 3a plus b, so 3a plus b will be one of our final parentheses. And then when we take each term and divide out that 3a plus b, we're going to be left with 7 plus c, and that would be our final answer. So just to recap, what you want to do is divvy up. Well, first thing you want to do is decide, is there a greatest common factor between all 4 terms? If so, go ahead and pull that out first. Then once you've done that, you want to make 2 groups, first 2 terms and second 2 terms. In each group, you want to ask yourself, what is their greatest common factor? Pull out the greatest common factor from each of those 2 groups. And then if you do it correctly, these 2 groups should now have a greatest common factor that is a parenthesis with more than one term. Go ahead and factor that out, and then you'll be left with one parenthesis that is that term they had that's the same, and then the other parenthesis will have what they had that was different between those terms. And anytime you're trying to factor something with 4 terms, this is the way that you have to do it. And then we're going to go over a little bit later how you can make a problem with 3 terms look like factoring by grouping so that it can look like this and you can use these techniques.